Hey, if you're watching this video early in its production, you'll be able to catch Friday's coin class. You can win a red book. Don't miss out on that. Look, I've got an RPM here in front of me. Let me find my, where are we here? Oh, well, there's the red book. But this, if you can see it, is a pretty darn pretty looking one. I was going through a roll of 60Ds and I came across this. Well, I look at these things because I'm a nut, and I had to do it. Let me fix my screen here real quick. Um, there, I want to get that up. Had to do it with the video off OBS so we could better see it. There, I'm lined up there, and I go to screen. There's the screenshot, and well, let's have a look at the RPM first. You're gonna find it right in here. Now, boy, this is a tough one to see. You're looking just below the D for some extra metal, and boy, it's hard to attribute these sometimes. That's what I'm trying to show you here. And where'd my pointy stick go? Oh God, I'm not ready. Okay, just below the D, underneath it, you've got an extra raised bit of metal. Well, that's the signature of an RPM, is extra metal where it shouldn't be, and it's always around the RPM. Attributing these is tough, right? You got, I mean, a couple of hundred of them. CONECA, you've got 2 pages here at least. 1 to 60, 61 through 113. Yeah, that's for 60D RPM. There's plenty of them, let me tell you. Let's go back here. Over on Coppercoins, what do you got? You got upwards of, 100 over there. No, geez, you got 10 more pages. There's plenty of them. So how do you attribute the darn things? You go through one at a time. Is it this one? No. That one? No. This one? No. And the best way is to hold up what you have with what you see in the pictures. Well, the match I come up with is, I wrote it down, number, what is it, 52. And where are you? This is number 52 over here. Can we see this? I didn't even check if we could see this. What are you looking at? Hold on. Bear with me here. Yeah, I try to do these videos and explain things as best I can, but it gets rather complex at times. Okay, there is what CONECA has for number 52, and here is no, where's what I got? Here's what I got. Okay, let's try to put those side by side and get better focus. Okay, and that's the best match I can come up with. So now I want to take a look at what they have for information and cross-reference it with, well, Wexler or Coppercoins or anybody else who has a listing of RPMs. Problem with Wexler, his information is not online, so we'll just see what we can come up with here. Okay, and I should be able to put my picture, wait one moment, here's that one, here's my picture, and I can move that over to the left side here so we can see what he has and what I have. Okay, there. This is this is CONECA, James Wiles' site, and we're going to see. It's a pretty good match for these photos, right? Now, the first thing I look at is the placement and shape and angle of the mint mark, which you're going to see, and you should be able to see my mouse here, vertically, horizontally, right? This lines up with the left side of the 9. Mine lines up with the left side of the 9. Mine is mostly lined up with just above the tail. Excuse me, over in my sample, same sort of thing. The angle is right. Then we get into the die markers. Now this is neat because if it doesn't have the die markers, it's not the same die. And if it's not the same die, it's not RPM number 52. And this gets really tough. I'm looking at, die scratches under God. And I got to show these somehow on this little camera. And we're getting into the, boy, that's tough to see. But you're looking at the angles on these things. And you got to get the God lined up right between the two photos. And yeah, the angles look pretty good over here. Okay, I'm looking at, die scratches above Liberty. And I got pretty good ones showing between the T and the Y, just below the level of the bar, the T. Let's see if we can see that one. And over here, boy, that's a pretty good, that lines up pretty darn well. I got a nice bold one right under there. The direction is right. How about die scratches in front of the face? Okay, I've got good ones. I got a pointy one sticking out right at the peak of his forehead there. And that seems to show up over here. Got him below the nose. Over here, got him below the nose. Okay, these polishing marks are from dressing up the dye. Now we get into different stages of that dye, A, B, C, D, right? Because over the life of that dye, these polish marks can change, they can weaken, they can soften, more can be added, right? Sometimes you get these dye chips or cracks will show up. Here you get a dye chip on the right cornice, and you've got a dye chip in the column number 1. Let me take a look at the back of this and show you what I'm looking at. Okay, have we got a dye chip in column number 1? We sure do, right here, right where it should be. It's a good match for what we have in the image. I think mine is not quite as bold. This one seems a little bit bolder. Let's look at the right chip on the cornice. Okay. And I seem to have something here, but again, it's nowhere near as bold as what we see on the CONECA site. Okay, so what this tells me, it's probably the same stage, but just a little bit earlier. We could look at stage B, but stage B doesn't mention the cornice at all. But I've just got the tiniest bit of dye chip right there on the little edge. That's it. That's all I have. So this is stage A, stage B. Yeah, stage B to C. It's right in between here. What else you got in here from markers? By the time you get to stage D, this is really neat because the dye chips disappear. No dye chip, no dye chip. This tells me between stage C and D, the reverse dye was changed, but the front, the obverse, is still the same. So we're still looking for all those same markers. So I'm pretty sure this is, I'm pretty confident this is RPM number 52. I can go back and look for more markers. Okay, on God, we're pretty well lined up there. We've got the die scratches in the right positions in the right direction. Right? Die scratch in front of the face, we got those. Okay, we got the chip on column 1, but we don't have the chip, not this bold, on the right cornice. Huh. Okay, oh, and they also have one in column 12 that I don't have. So I'm just before this one and just after this one. Stage B looks good. Now I want to compare what else does everybody else have, because I want to cross-reference this fella right here. And we're going to take a look at that further. Okay, I get over to Coppercoins. I got a bazillion of them. And where's 52? Where's 52? We're using CONECA RPM 52 is what we have. Right there it is, CONECA 52. And looking at what Coppercoins has for that same RPM. Okay, here you go. And it's a pretty darn nice match. Position, what's showing for the extraness of the repunch. And then we get this. I've got 2 die scratches going almost due north. Is this a match? Okay, look, we got different guys using different die markers. I've got some scratches plentiful going left to right. But I've got a couple of them that are prominently showing vertically. How about that one? This really makes it tough. Every now and then you get this. It makes it real tough to cross-reference the things. Now, fortunately, Coppercoins has already cross-referenced them to CONECA 52, Wexler 43, and a Crawford listing. All right, but we're using different die markers, so sometimes you get a little bit of confusion. Now this is an early die stage, I believe is what it was. No, he's using middle die stage. He does not show much of a chip here, but it looks like it might be a little one. But he also goes on to show a substantial die polishing mark above C. Let's see if I can find the penny. There it is. Above the C, goes through the top of the E, and all the way through the N, and it gets difficult to show these sometimes. I just barely have that here, and it's difficult to pick it up, but I've got that angle on the back. Okay, well that's a pretty good match, and if it weren't for this, right? And for that fact that I can see both the horizontal and the vertical lines here, this would be tough to cross match. You got to have it all. Okay, let's get in and have a look at that mint mark real close. This is where it gets pretty. Okay, I'm gonna move this over. Anyway, I'm pretty confident that's the correct RPM listing. And let's see if we can see what this actual bit of extra metal is. Boy, we're going to the limits of this camera here. Let me turn it sideways so we don't quite get the as much glare on what we're looking for. Here it is. There we go. Okay, you're looking at, there's the date over there. It's a large date. That's also a big giveaway. It's going to be the right variety. And there's the extra metal you can see, and I should be able to point that with my mouse here. Hold still, can't you? This is tough. We're working on the micron scale. You're looking at the extra metal right here on the left side, which is the bottom of the D, right in there. And you can see these little lines, these little polished lines, when you're up close this far. Let's look in front of his face for those polished marks. Let's find his face. Oh, that's his head. There's his face. And sometimes you got to match up the camera with the focus to find these dye markers. I'm not really finding it so well here. And all I can really look for here is the direction. There you go. And where'd the light go? If you can get the light just right, you can see them too. See the in this, I've got the coin upside down for the camera. Camera's at an angle, so we can try to get this right. See the diagonal lines here going from G, going northwest from your, to the upper left in from your view. Those are your polishing marks. And you get some more. Let's find Liberty. Must be here somewhere. There's Liberty. So CONECA shows these lines that are vertical to Liberty, which would be up and down from this viewpoint. And Daughtry over on Coppercoins uses 2 vertical scratches. Boy, it's hard to see either one of them here. But what I'm finding out is when you get into the really, really fine stuff, I think this equipment is at its limit. Well, no matter. This is CONECA RPM number 52. Let's see if we can get that. And it's that little bit of extra metal just below the mint mark. Okay. Guys, I want to thank you for tuning in. I'm going to get this listed over in the standard database. All right. You stay groovy. Alright, stop recording, stop streaming, stop recording.